Hello there. This is Amazing Grace at Grace is Amazing. And I'm making a video for you today. Since it's coming up on All Hallows Eve, which, by the way, I don't personally celebrate because I know too much about it and I'm not a witch. Even though I may look a little bit like one right now, this is just for mood. Don't get scared. I'm not really creepy. Am I? Oh, sorry. Wow, that looked weird. I'm looking at myself, by the way. I'm doing a selfie on this. And I want to tell some stories. And the first story I want to tell you about is one of the two weirdest, creepiest, still don't know what it meant or exactly what was going on. I think I might, but things that ever happened to me. The summer was 1968. It was the end of July. And we had just had a very strange experience at our house that I've never heard of anybody having before. It seems that four kids, that's right, 18, 19 years old, 2 boys, 2 girls, in Rhode Island, robbed a jewelry store, stole a newlywed couple's car, and it was packed, ready for them to leave on their honeymoon the next day. Bad kids. And it took off across country like Bonnie and Clyde. Every time they burned up a car, they stole another one, and then stole another one, and then stole another one. Well, this is all unbeknownst to us, okay? Meanwhile, Mom and me and a house full of company up in the teeny tiny, out in the middle of nowhere corner of Colorado with the Wyoming border 100 feet from our front door, the railroad tracks running right down the border, our home, and we're going to be going to the Cheyenne Frontier Rodeo and Frontier Days the next day. Meanwhile, we're waiting on my dad and the father of the kids that were there visiting, and actually shirt tail relation, to get home from them going to the rodeo. Girl and I are crashed out on the floor. 11 o'clock at night, the phone rings. So I answer it, and the neighbor lady comes on and asks if my mother is there. And I said, yes. And she said, may I talk to her? And I'm like, yes. And I knew something was up. Something was in the wind. Nobody called us that late at night. And she was sounding very deliberately controlled, like she was trying not to show that she was afraid. So Mom gets on the phone and talks to her, hangs up, tells me that these kids from Rhode Island ended up in their front yard, actually, about 9 o'clock that night, trying to steal their car. But when she turned on the lights, thinking it was her husband still out at work, they scattered. And the reason she called us is they were heading in our direction. Yeah, well, they never showed, I guess. But if they did, they couldn't get our car, because that was the one night in my entire life that Mom locked the car. Because we're out in the middle of nowhere. Who thinks you're going to steal their car? Well, after they busted them, we found out that these kids were sitting up by the railroad tracks that afternoon watching us eat a picnic lunch. And they were armed and dangerous. Whoa, now that was creepy. Majorly creeped me out. So, all right, that happens. Well, they go home and we go about our own business, and I try to go on about like I'm normal day, like nothing unusual going on, but I just got this feeling. I've got this feeling nonstop that something's following me or somebody's watching me. And if I was to turn just so, there they'd be. It didn't matter what I was doing or where I was. I could be in my room by myself. I could be out in the kitchen with Mom. I could be outside doing chores. There it was. However, one day I did get a glimpse of what it was. And what it was, come to find out many years later, was a shadow people. It was a shadow person. Ghost, demon, I don't know. I don't think it was a demon because of what happened later. But anyway, this kept going on all through August. And then in September, when I went to school, it followed me there. So whatever it was had attached itself to me. Well, then one day in the middle of September, Mom had invited some company up to spend a weekend with us, and she cleaned the upstairs bedroom, which is the bedroom I preferred, and brought all my stuff downstairs, including my little red portable AM/FM radio, set it on my nightstand, and came out, and we had dinner with Irma Helen. And then I went in the living room, sitting there working on a crossword puzzle. And Mom asked me to go in the bedroom and get my new red coat that she'd bought me to show Irma Helen. So I go in the bedroom, and when I opened the door, I realized my transistor radio was on full blast. And it wasn't. I repeat, it wasn't. I hadn't turned it on. Mom hadn't turned it on. Dad sure as heck hadn't turned it on. Irma Helen hadn't even been back there. And I froze. It was absolutely terrified. I backed out of the hall, stood there crying like a baby, feeling stupid but scared. So Mom kept hollering at me, "Hey, where are you at?" And I couldn't even answer. Finally, she comes in the living room, and she said, "What's the matter?" And I said, all I could do was point and say, my radio's on. So she goes in the bedroom and nothing's there. Turns my radio off, looks in the closet behind the door, under the bed, makes sure the boogeyman's not there. And here I am, 17 years old, a senior in high school, but what are you going to do? I know something was there. Something turned my radio on. So then she brought the coat out, and they kind of kidded me a little bit, but yeah, whatever. I know it was there. I know something was. I never told them about something following me all the time. They'd probably thought I was really crazy and they'd lock me up. But then time went on again, and middle of October, second Friday in October, I stayed up to watch To Kill a Mockingbird after my parents went to bed. Loved the story. Read the book when it was brand new, when I was 10. And so I'm sitting there watching the movie, and if you've seen the movie, you know about the time when they're in the woods and you know something really bad's going to happen and you're hanging on the edge of your seat. Yeah, that moment. Okay? All of a sudden, the kitchen clock hanging over the inside front door started making the strangest noise. And I popped up off the chair like I'd been shot, ran out to the kitchen, stood there and stared at it in utter disbelief while it did that for another 2 minutes. Now, the hands weren't going around backwards in circles or flying off the clock or anything, but it was making that screaming noise. Then all of a sudden it stopped. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? So I couldn't think of anything else to do, so I double checked the door and made sure it was locked. Went in, finished watching the movie, went to bed, sound asleep. You know, when you're a teenager, you sleep like the dead, usually. And I did. I fell asleep on my left side, like always, with my back to the wall, like always. And suddenly, it was like, you know, the old-fashioned shades on windows that you pulled on them and they flip up? Well, that's what happened with my eyes. They just flew open. And there was a beam of light coming through the little bitty window on the wall behind my bed and landing on my guitar, which was close enough that I could have reached out and touched it, leaning up against my nightstand. Well, that guitar is what my eyes first saw, and at the same time, I saw the beam of light and the guitar. An invisible hand strummed my strings on my guitar just once. Immediately, not more than a second or two after that, I heard 3 footfalls in the middle of the living room floor. Like, if you heard that, sounded like that. Well, let me tell you something. My head went under the blankets, and I was scared to death and praying, oh Lord, I don't know what this is. I don't know what's been going on all this time, but I can't take it. Leave me alone. You know, and I stayed under there, like the little 2-year-old hiding from the boogeyman. Yep. Well, I managed to go back to sleep. Got up the next morning, went out to the kitchen, said, Mom, did you get up last night? Please say you did. Please say you did. Please say you did. Nope, sure didn't. Well, Dad comes in from doing chores, and I said, Dad, did you get up last night? Nope, sure didn't. Oh, God. So then, Mom says, by the way, who was the last one to go to bed last night? And I said, well, I was. Why? You know that. I stayed up and watched the movie. She said, well, you forgot to lock the inside door, and it was sitting wide open this morning. Oh, my God. I immediately said, oh, no, I didn't. No, I did not. In fact, then I went through the whole thing. Told them all about it. Well, guess what? They weren't laughing at me anymore. Their jaws dropped to their knees, and then they snapped them shut, and never no more was said about it. So I don't know. What do y'all think? Was it a ghost? Because I think it was. Question is, whose ghost? Was it a ghost of somebody who lived there before? Was it a ghost of one of my dead relatives on my biological family's side? I may never know till I die and go to heaven. Maybe God will tell me. Maybe the ghost will tell me if they made it to heaven. I didn't feel threatened. No, they could have harmed me. They didn't. It was like they were letting me know they were there, and then they said goodbye. Mysterious, isn't it? Let's face it, we live in a mysterious world.